Okay, let us get down to reality. There are a few items you should absolutely cross off your list before getting married. And no, I am not referring to choosing coordinated towels or creating the ideal hashtag for your wedding. I am referring to the things that nobody tells you. The weird, awkward, and occasionally self-centered things that will truly prepare you to spend eternity with someone. The fact is that after you say, "I do," matrimony is not just about you anymore. Therefore, before you start sharing a toothbrush holder, let us make sure you have had some life experience, made mistakes, learned lessons, and laughed. Stay put since I am listing the things you must do before getting married. And believe me, you may be surprised by some of these. Recognize that marriage is a decision, not an objective. Okay, let us begin with a major one. First of all, marriage is a decision rather than an objective. Yes, I am aware that this may come across as contentious, as if we were all on a timeline with a happily ever after as the big conclusion. Society tries to convince us that marriage is the most important life milestone. However, let me clarify that marriage is neither a destination or a checkbox you can use to demonstrate your achievement in life. You have an option, a large one. And the more you consider it a decision, the better that decision will be. Do not misunderstand me. I firmly believe that marriage was the ultimate objective when I was younger. It seemed like there would be a large neon sign over my head flashing "failure" for everyone to see if I was not married by the time I was 30. I recall attending weddings and thinking that everyone had figured out the secret to happiness, and there was actual pressure. The problem is that we begin to believe that everything less than marriage is inherently lacking when we view marriage as a destination rather than a decision. Furthermore, that is simply untrue. I personally witnessed this happen to a close friend. Despite her reservations, she believed that becoming engaged was the next step. Get married was positioned in the middle of her list of life goals, sandwiched between purchase a house and have 2 kids by 35. She seemed to believe that achieving that objective was a prerequisite for her value. She felt in her heart, however, that they were not a good fit. You can probably predict what transpired. It was over. She subsequently told me that although it was unpleasant, she wishes she had viewed marriage as a decision rather than something she had to do in order to feel whole. Marriage is not a relationship update when you finally succeed at love, nor is it the pinnacle of adulthood. Building a life with someone is a decision. This implies that you choose that individual on a daily basis rather than just once. You will end up regretting your decision if you are only getting married because you think it is the right thing to do. And believe me when I say that it truly becomes relevant when you perceive it as a choice. You are making the choice because you truly want to be with this person, free from social pressure, time constraints, or that aunt who is always asking when you are going to settle down. And that is the distinction between viewing marriage as a glittering accomplishment and a lifetime commitment. You already have a complete life, whether or not you are married. If I may give you one piece of honest advice, marriage is wonderful, but it does not make you whole. You are already whole. If it is right for you, go ahead and choose it. If not, do not jump right in. You will not regret your decision if you are doing it for the correct reasons. Therefore, keep in mind that it is neither a task to complete or a goal to achieve. There is an option, and it is well worth the wait. Create a network of people who are not your partner. All right, let us go to number 2. Creating a support network outside of your partner may cause some people to take offense. I get that the entire fairy tale romance thing tells us that the person you meet will be your partner in crime, your best friend, your therapist, your fitness partner, and really, pretty much any other position you can think of. The problem is, though, it is a lot of strain to place on one individual. It is actually quite impractical to expect your partner to satisfy all of your emotional, social, and mental needs. Believe me, you will require and desire a strong support network that extends beyond your spouse. I understand that this may sound a bit contentious, but listen carefully. You are set for life if your lover is your everything, people say. Although your relationship should be one of your strongest supporters, Everyone has mentors, friends, and family who have supported them long before their partner did. They are also the ones who will offer you guidance when you need it, a reality check when you need it, and let us face it, a place to vent when things at home become difficult. In the beginning of my relationship, I discovered this the hard way. I believed that I should rely on my lover for everything. He became my go-to person for all of my issues because we spent so much time together. Indeed, it seemed as though we were living in a perfect little bubble for a while. Then reality set in. Let me tell you, after our first major argument, I felt more alone than ever. I would kind of let my friendships wane because I would spend so much time with him. It was not until that bubble shattered that I realized how much I would been depending on him for all of my emotional support. The best advice I have ever received was from one of my closest friends. Just because you are in a relationship does not mean you cease being your own person. That was a huge blow to me. Your family, friends, mentors, and even coworkers bring out different aspects of you. They help you stay grounded and remind you of your identity outside of the relationship. They help you stay true to your identity as a person, not just as a partner. And let us face it, sometimes you simply need an outsider to examine your relationship from an unbiased standpoint. Have you ever tried telling your lover everything you are upset about? Yes, it is not always well received. It is priceless to have people that can listen to you and encourage you without taking sides. Additionally, those buddies can assist you in recognizing when you might be acting a bit irrationally, which does occasionally happen. The difficult aspect is that even the strongest relationships may suffer if you depend on one person to provide all of your emotional requirements. Imagine it as a one-legged table. Simply put, it is unstable. Your entire foundation is strengthened by the additional legs that your support network outside of your relationship provides. Your mentors, family, and friends are there to support you and keep you from placing all of your burdens on one person. I do not need anyone but my partner, you may be thinking, and I understand. Particularly at the beginning, we are all engrossed in the romance. However, fostering those other relationships is one of the best things you can do for both your relationship and yourself. Believe me, your partner does not want to feel like they have to be everything to you. Furthermore, it is healthy to rely on individuals outside of the partnership. It is not a betrayal. Build that support system then. Make time for your family, maintain your friendships, and stay in touch with the individuals that help you remember who you are. Because a partnership in which you are both whole on your own, with a solid foundation surrounding you, is the finest sort. And believe me when I say that having that will improve your relationship. Therefore, keep in mind that you should retain your people near in addition to your relationship. After all, you deserve to live a full life that is full of love, laughter, and maybe even the occasional buddy who will simply tell you, you are right, they are being foolish. Do not date the wrong individuals. Okay, so get ready for number 3, dating all the wrong people, because it is going to be heated. You did indeed hear me correctly. Get out there. Swipe right on people who are completely different from you, and perhaps even go out with that guy your buddies covertly refer to as Red Flag Rick. Does that seem counterintuitive? It isn't. I promise you that dating the incorrect individuals before you find the right one has a significant and essential effect. Let us face it, unless you know what you do not want in a companion, you cannot truly know what you want. Finding out what you cannot stand sometimes requires dating people who make you want to chuck your phone out the window. You are losing out on some important life lessons if you have only dated people you believe will make a good spouse, or if you have always dated safe folks. Yes, perhaps some juicy stories as well. As an illustration, I used to date a man who was totally inappropriate for me. It was a disaster waiting to happen. According to all of my friends, I knew it was not going anywhere, but he was untrustworthy, would vanish for days, and had no idea what he wanted out of life. However, there was a sense of excitement about it. Warning, it did not work out. However, I learned more about my deal breakers from that relationship than from any checklist. I discovered that I am not the kind to pursue someone who is not sure if they are interested, that I need consistency, and that I appreciate open communication. The idea that every relationship must be a serious step toward marriage is another common fallacy. It is such bullshit. Relationships that are enjoyable, short-lived, and sometimes even little poisonous can teach us a lot. Every inappropriate person you date is actually helping you hone what you need, what you deserve, and what you absolutely will not tolerate, as long as you are safe and aware. You are developing in ways you are not even aware of and learning how to build relationships. You learn more about yourself when you date the wrong people. I came to see that I lost aspects of who I was in relationships that were not suitable for me. I was gradually sacrificing things that were significant to me. Things I believed I could ignore, but at first I was not even aware of it. After that, I knew exactly what I wanted to stand for when I met the perfect person. So feel free to date people who are not your soulmate. However, make use of that experience to determine your own values and develop early warning signs. Dating the wrong individuals is a necessary step in the process, but do not get ahead of yourself and keep making the same mistakes. Remember to take lessons from it though. Do you wish to proceed? Setting limits is still possible, and it is sometimes the most healthy method to achieve harmony. Furthermore, marrying someone entails joining a different family. Let us face it. The more you have organized your own family's belongings, the more equipped you will be to deal with your new in-laws' peculiarities. I promise you that every family has unique characteristics, and if you want to establish a solid relationship, you should bring as little baggage as you can and a great deal of understanding. The tricky part is that you are also making peace with yourself when you are at peace with your family. You are stating, I choose to move forward in a way that benefits my happiness and my future, and I accept where I come from. It is not necessary to love every member of your family, and it is definitely not necessary to surround yourself with poisonous people. However you choose to define peace, it is an act of self-love. It is granting yourself the flexibility to create a life and a relationship free from the burdens of the past. Yes, you should reconcile with your family, not for their benefit, but for your own. Let go of the rest, accept what you cannot change, and resolve what you can. You will be shocked at how much lighter you feel and how much more obvious your route to a happy, healthy marriage is. Making peace is the first step in breaking cycles and creating something new, which is ultimately what we are all attempting to do. So go ahead and set those boundaries, have that difficult talk, or simply let go. It will be among the best things you do before getting married, I promise. Be content with who you are. Fifth, marriage tip. Embrace your current self. Now let us discuss number 5, which is really deep. Be content with who you are at this moment. Yes, I am aware that it seems like it would be easier said than done. The reality is that marriage will not make you happy if you are not content with who you are right now. Actually, it will just make things more difficult for you and your future spouse. Let us take a moment to be realistic. We are all led by society to believe that in order to be loved, we must be flawless versions of ourselves. We are told that we will not be ready for love until we have fixed all our flaws, shed those extra pounds, advanced in our careers, and reached some sort of enchanted state of self-actualization. It is all rubbish, and I am here to tell you that. Being comfortable with your current self, flaws and all, is more important than being flawless. Consider this. You are putting yourself in a very bad position if you are counting on marriage or someone else to make you happy. Marriage is not a panacea for issues like self-doubt, insecurity, or anything else you are struggling with. Sure, your spouse can help you, but they cannot be the source of your self-worth. It is your responsibility to bring that to the table. I have been there, so believe me. I used to believe that everything about me that I did not love would be remedied once I met the right person. I believed that being in a relationship would make me feel more whole, less nervous, and more self-assured. Spoiler alert though, that did not occur. If anything, it only made my relationship more stressful and caused me to have moments where I thought my spouse would make me feel safe and content, but in reality, it was an inner job. Let us simply say that did not go as planned. So believe me when I say that accepting who you are at this moment changes everything. It is learning to accept what you see when you look in the mirror, even if there are aspects you would like to improve. Saying, "This is me," is the goal. I accept the fact that I am still a work in progress. Because you will ultimately turn to your spouse for validation and assurance that they just cannot supply around the clock if you are unable to accept yourself, which puts a lot of strain on your relationship and is, to be honest, unfair to both of you. Something wonderful occurs when you are content with yourself. You give your relationship your complete self. You do not seek to your partner to feel worthy or to fill in the voids in your life. By presenting yourself as a whole person, you are not only improving as a partner, but also fortifying the relationship's foundation as a whole. I am referring to the ability to be vulnerable, the self-assurance to advocate for yourself, and the capacity to genuinely support another person since you are not continuously questioning yourself. Does this imply that before getting married, you must be completely happy with every aspect of your life? Not at all. It just means trying to accept who you are, flaws and all. That is a journey too. Perhaps you have not fully addressed the insecurities you are harboring, or you are still working out your career. It is all right. However, you must decide that you are sufficient and deserving. Since your relationship will be based on two whole individuals rather than one person attempting to complete the other, your partner will sense it when you hold that belief. Furthermore, it is acceptable to be somewhat disorganized. All of us are. Thank God no one is flawless. Is not that right? However, be content with who you are at this moment. Accept the peculiarities, the imperfections, and the projects you are working on. Love that person, not some romanticized image of yourself that only exists in your mind, since that is the person your spouse is marrying. Ultimately, loving yourself first is the most loving thing you can do for your future spouse. A partner who understands their value and contributes that strength to the relationship is the greatest gift you can give your spouse when you enter a marriage content with who you are. Someone who chooses to construct a life together from a place of confidence and self-love rather than depending on the other person to complete them. Thus, in this moment, be content with who you are. The basis for the love you are forming with someone else will be laid by your efforts to love yourself, flaws and all. Fixing each other is not the purpose of marriage. It is about supporting and celebrating one another, which is only feasible if you already believe that you deserve love. Thus, inhale deeply, gaze in the mirror, and remind yourself that you are sufficient just the way you are at this moment. And the real magic happens when you enter a relationship with that kind of enthusiasm. Talk about marriage with your partner. Start 6. Talk about marriage with your partner honestly. All right, here's a big one. Talk about marriage with your partner honestly. I know, this sounds obvious, right? But let me tell you, I can't count how many people walk into marriage with only the vaguest idea of what the other person wants. And we're talking about the rest of your lives here. Marriage is huge, and not just the wedding part with the cake and the dancing. This is where you dig into the real, sometimes tough stuff, the stuff that can make or break you down the line. Let's get real for a second. Society loves to romanticize marriage as this fairy tale ending. You fall in love, you get married, happily ever after. But if you go into it thinking that you're in for a rude awakening, I'm talking about the nitty-gritty, unglamorous stuff. What do we want our day-to-day life to look like? How do we handle money? Do we want kids? Where are we going to live? These aren't exactly date night conversations, but believe me, you need to have them. And don't even get me started on the awkward questions, because yeah, there are going to be some. I remember when I first started bringing up the serious stuff with my partner, I thought, oh, we're totally on the same page. We're in love. How hard can it be? And then boom, we started talking about things like finances and future goals, and I realized we had wildly different expectations. One of us thought we'd be traveling all the time, while the other wanted to settle down ASAP. It was a little bit of a wake-up call, to say the least. Here's the controversial part. Not everyone sees marriage the same way. For some people, It's all about shared finances, a mortgage, and a family. For others, it's about maintaining freedom and independence while having a partner by their side. And both of those are valid if you're honest with each other. But if one person's dreaming of a cozy suburban life and the other is planning to backpack through Asia for a year, well, you might be setting yourselves up for disappointment if you haven't talked about it. Marriage is not just a romantic next step, it's an agreement. And for that agreement to work, you need to know what each of you is actually agreeing to. Are we a team that makes decisions together? Are we open to therapy if we hit rough patches? What about when family conflicts come up? How are we going to handle those? These are the types of questions you should be diving into because marriage doesn't magically solve anything. If anything, it amplifies what's already there. Look, I'll be the first to admit that these conversations can be uncomfortable, especially early on. There's this fear of sounding too serious too soon, or even scaring the other person off. But here's the thing. If they're not willing to talk about marriage with you, you might want to think twice about marrying them in the first place. You deserve someone who's just as invested in these discussions as you are. And you know what's funny? Once you start talking honestly, it actually brings you closer. When I finally laid out my fears, my hopes, and yes, my pet peeves about marriage with my partner, it was like a weight lifted. We weren't living in this fantasy. And there you have it. Some essential things to consider before you take the big leap into marriage. Whether it's making peace with your family, learning to love yourself, or having those deep conversations with your partner, these are the building blocks for a strong, healthy relationship. Marriage isn't about perfection. It's about being real with yourself and each other. So take your time, do the work, and get ready for an exciting journey ahead. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below with your own pre-marriage tips or thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and remember, building a lasting marriage starts with open hearts, open minds, and maybe a little humor along the way. Until next time, stay true to yourself.